Welcome to HCS Talks. I'm your host, Superintendent of Hampton City Schools, Raymond Haynes. Welcome to Season 2 of HCS Talks, our Hampton City Schools podcast. Our goal is to educate, inform, and even entertain both our local community and listeners beyond. Each episode will cover a variety of topics from education and student success to the efforts of our teachers, support staff, parents, and community partners. We will also dive into programs and initiatives offering something valuable and informative for everyone. We hope you will join us and continue tuning in to HCS Talks. Today I have the opportunity to sit down with Dr. Heidi Brezinski, one of our elementary principals here in Hampton City Schools. She is a seasoned administrator who has quite a bit of experience at the elementary school level. So Dr. Brezinski is here to discuss the ins and outs of elementary school with us. Dr. Brezinski, we certainly welcome you and thank you for joining us today on HCS Talks. But before we jump into our discussion, would you please introduce yourself to our listening audience?
Well, thank you for welcoming me. I'm super happy to be here this morning. I am Dr. Heidi Brezinski, and currently I am the principal at Burbank Elementary School. I have been at HCS for a long time as a principal. I'm not sure I like the word seasoned, but we'll take it this morning. I guess I am seasoned. I don't even honestly, off the top of my head, know how many years I have been principal now. A lot.
How long have you been with Hampton City Schools?
23 years.
This is your 23rd year or 24th year?
This will be 24.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you are born and raised here in Hampton?
I am. I'm a product of Hampton City Schools, proudly. I like telling people that all the time.
Me too.
I was a student of Hampton City Schools, a principal, teacher, assistant principal, and I'm a parent of Hampton City Schools.
So what elementary school did you attend?
I went to Robert E. Lee Elementary, which is now the Alternative Center, and I went to Lindsay Middle School, and then the Hampton High School.
A crabber.
Proud crabber here. Proud crabber, yes.
And then you went on from Hampton High to where?
I went on from Hampton High to George Mason University with the intention of being a clinical psychologist one day. And obviously, paths changed, and I found the right of my ways and decided to go into education. And honestly, it was Hampton City Schools that kind of pulled me back.
Right.
I stayed in contact with a former teacher, and she became a principal in Hampton City Schools. And so I wanted to be her, to be honest with you.
Nice.
So I
Came back home.
Yeah, I became an elementary school principal at Cary Elementary years ago, and just worked my way up to where I am now.
So your first principalship was at Cary, which is now
my first
Christian?
Principalship was at Phillips Elementary.
Phillips, okay.
Yeah, I was at Phillips for a couple years, and then I went to Cary, and then now at Burbank. So,
all right.
Yeah.
In Bulldog Country.
Yeah.
And you were when you first came to Hampton to teach, what grade?
I was a first grade teacher. Yeah, I taught first grade, taught the little ones.
Did you do kindergarten?
I did kindergarten as well. Yep. And
how long did you do kindergarten?
For 3 years.
But first grade was your first teaching position.
Yes,
How long
first
did
grade.
you do that?
First grade was 2 years,
Okay.
and then kindergarten for 3 years.
Okay, so kindergarten and first grade, which one was more of a challenge for you?
Honestly, I thought first grade was going to be the challenge because you really pack so much into a year. You take a kid from not reading to full on reading by the end of the year. But really, kindergarten was the bigger challenge just because there's so much SEL stuff, like social emotional learning in kindergarten on top of all of the academic learning. And so not that there isn't SEL learning in first grade, it's just so much of new and introduced to school kind of, and even pre-K. At that time, Hampton didn't have a large pre-K program, and so a lot of kids came from private pre-K, and they're a much smaller environment. And so I think that was probably the biggest challenge, was just trying to get kids acclimated to what life was like in public school. So
I bet you slept well at night during your
Yeah.
kindergarten teaching
Yeah.
years.
The first year too was Hurricane Isabel, so we were
Wow.
out for, over a week. So it was a tough year, but yeah, I slept well every night.
So where did you teach?
Phillips,
Phillips.
yeah.
So
I've
kindergarten
actually,
and first were at Phillips.
yes. No, first was at Cary. Kindergarten was at Phillips. I've actually, weirdly enough,
So you've been
circled
principal at,
back to be principal of every elementary school that I taught at.
wow.
Yeah, yeah,
That is nice.
yeah,
That is
yep,
nice.
yep,
So you mentioned that you have a child
yes.
that is a Hampton City School student
Yeah.
as well.
She's a
So
student at
talk a little bit
Kecoughtan High
about
School.
her.
She's a student at Kecoughtan High School. She's in her junior year. She's been with Hampton City Schools since kindergarten, and she's currently in the ATEL Academy, but this year decided to test waters and go into New Horizons for nursing to do
Right.
the nursing aid program. And so she goes part to one Kecoughtan and part to the other. And but
Well, she's still in the Academy of Teaching, Education, and Learning.
yes,
Did
yes.
mom have anything to do with that?
A little bit, a little bit. She wants to be a nurse, but I knew she wants to work with kids, and so just trying to, the whole point of like the academies is really just finding your way in
Right.
life, and testing what works for you and what doesn't, and
Absolutely.
so knowing that she had been in my side of the school things, I wanted to also give her an opportunity to see what life was like, as you train to become an educator, and not under your mom's wing. So the ATEL Academy was a perfect fit for her.
So we are in our third or fourth week of school. So how is she enjoying New Horizons so far?
She's enjoying New Horizons a lot. She loves the nursing program. So I think nursing is probably going to be her way. I don't think we're going to sway her into education. But it's okay. We need
maybe
nurses
she'll come
in the
back
world.
and be a school nurse.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's her plan. She's my overachiever. I kind of have done that to her. And so she plans to be a school nurse when she has children of her own. So there
Nice.
is a plan to circle back at some point.
Nice. So Dr. Brezinski, can you talk about how elementary school, from your perspective, has changed over the past decade or so?
I think schools in general have kind of changed in the last decade. I think that's the nature of things is we see that kids and the culture and world around us has changed, and so we have to adapt to that. For instance, kids live in a age of technology.
Yes.
There isn't a child now that doesn't have a phone in their hand before they reach the age of 10, somehow, some way, whether it be mom's phone, their phone. And so we have little tiny ones that are on iPads with learning games and things. So I think we have to adapt to that. When I first started teaching, kids didn't have that stuff at the ready. So, we didn't have to compete with that in terms of engagement. So I think the technology and engagement have been like the top thing I think has really changed. We have to find new ways to engage kids.
Right.
We have to look at what motivates them outside of school and find ways to do that inside of school so that we keep them engaged in their own education and not just coming to school to do a thing. Because that's the last thing we want them to do. We want them to come to school and want to be here and
Right.
want to learn and be motivated.
There's a saying that one of my superintendent colleagues in another state has said, and I may be messing up his quote. He says, we are preparing young people for the world they are about to enter into,
Yes,
not the world
yes.
we came from.
Yes.
So it means a lot just from your just talking about the technology and how it has evolved, and
Yeah.
very much unlike from when we were coming through school as well.
Yes.
So as older folks have to realize we're
Yeah.
preparing them for the world they are entering into and not the world we came
Yeah,
from.
and it's weird because I thought about this the other day when I actually became an assistant principal. I had a BlackBerry. I actually saw a Facebook post where it was like, oh, I got my new BlackBerry tonight. And I thought that BlackBerry did nothing really except
No.
text back and forth, send it some grainy pictures,
Right.
and make phone calls and like set dates, and now like I live off of my phone both for personal and
It is a
professional
walking
reason.
computer.
Yeah. Yeah. And so everything goes on there
Yes.
now. And so that's been a very short, frame of time.
Right.
So even just a kid's entrance into kindergarten to when they get in 12th grade, so much can change. And so I think we have to constantly keep that edge about us. And so I think that's the
And
change.
just looking at things they're expected to know now versus when we
Right.
were in school.
Right.
And, my daughter graduated from Kickingham back in 21, and the classes she took, even in middle school, I didn't even see until my junior and senior year
Right.
oftentimes.
Right.
So they are leaps and bounds beyond us in terms of what we experience.
Every year I try to buy a notebook for my child.
Yes.
Every year. I'm like, let me get a school supply. And I hand her a notebook and she's like, I don't need this. And I'm like, and I forget, like, her life is really on that computer,
Absolutely.
everything, all of her assignments, all her
Yes.
notes, all her everything. And
Yes.
so if they're not, they're very quick on a Post-it and then she transfers it over. So it's a different world.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
So why is fostering a positive school culture for elementary students, staff, and families important to you? I know that's one of the things you do exceptionally well in terms of climate and culture. So just talk a little bit about that.
It is definitely very much my heart and my passion is, looking at the school culture and really trying to create a positive environment for children, but also for their families. Like, it's very important to me to make the school the center of what, we are with them so much time. So I want it to be for both the student and their families so that they both feel comfortable. I think it boils down to trust. Kids need to trust that you are there for the right reasons for them. And then they will do anything for you. They will work for you. They will show up for you. They will do so much for you. And their parents too. I mean, I think that goes with families. Like, if they can build that trust with you, and then they will bring their best to you every day, and they will, they too will support you and provide, what you need. And I think creating that environment really is a win-win for all of us. It's a win for the families. It's a win for the student. It's a win for the teachers. It's a win for me as a principal. Like, it's a win for us in general. So I think it starts with trust. I think it's then fostering those relationships, like finding time to get to know people, taking the time to know parents, taking the time to know students, having those events where they can come into the school and feel comfortable, and be themselves and have a good time with their kids, really is just important.
I think it's also important, and well said, it's also important for staff to have that positive school culture and establishing that relationship and rapport with them. It also helps in terms of not just recruiting, but retention of staff too. Staff want to stay if they feel as though they're in a climate.
If you're wrapped around, like you have a community that's wrapped around you, then even on your worst day, you can feel like it's not that bad.
Right.
You
and
know,
we're in this together.
Yeah. If you turn around and you don't have a community wrapped around you, you can feel very alone. And so that's very important to me, even for my staff, is to say, hey, we're all here for each other, so that even on your worst day, we got your back.
Right. And I'm sure you can relate to this too. You want to create a climate and culture where you would feel comfortable if your child was attending that school as well.
I think about that always. That's my first lens for everything is, what would I do if it was my child?
Absolutely.
That's exactly the lens I use every day when I walk into my school.
Yes, ma'am. So, Dr. Brezinski, we know that elementary years are crucial for both academic and emotional development. Now, I know you talked about social emotional learning in the beginning, and we know that's something else that you focus on and do exceptionally well in connecting with young people. But how do you support the social and emotional well-being of your students?
So I really think it's about goes down to building that community and giving that sense of belonging, because, we have all the tools academically to foster our children. We have all the right curriculum, all the right assessments. We're very blessed in Hampton with that, but it's about providing that sense of belonging for our kids so that every day they want to show up. Every day they want to give their best. And, if you feel like you belong to something, if I walk in a building and I feel like I belong belong to something, then I'm going to give my heart and soul. And so one of the things we do is we do a lot of work around belonging. We do a lot of community building activities inside of our classrooms, but also inside of the larger framework of school, so that our counselor, our family engagement specialist, all of our teachers, our support specialists, all have that framework of belonging and community so that all of our kids feel wrapped around. So it's not just their classroom teacher they're getting it from each day, but they're getting it from the math support specialist. They're getting it from the school counselor. They're getting it from the librarian. They're getting it from the PE teacher. They're getting it from everybody so that they feel completely wrapped around as well.
Part of the culture at Burbank Elementary.
It is.
So how do you ensure that every student is given the opportunity to succeed academically regardless of their learning style or background?
So one of the things that I take very seriously is, inclusivity. I think it's super important, no matter what kids come to us with, whether it be learning style or learning ability or the ability to have support at home or, whatever you come with, we're ready to teach you.
Right.
We're ready to support you. And I think that goes back to providing teachers with the right tools, whether it be professional development, whether it be, strategies for how to support students. Hampton City Schools does a great job of creating like an environment where they can support our special education teachers, they can support our school counselors, they can support all of our support specialists so that students, despite their ability to read or despite their ability to get math or despite their ability to, feel, like they're at their best with social emotional learning, they can come to the table and we have all those supports in place. And so Hampton City Schools does a great job of training our teachers, training our support staff, training our counselors so that they can be prepared to do that job. And I think me as a principal has to provide that opportunity for teachers to connect with those opportunities so that they can be best prepared to support our students.
And we recognize it's the implementation or the execution of that curriculum that makes it guaranteed and viable.
Yes.
And those services and resources and support that are deeply embedded into the curriculum intentionally helps to support the SEL component of our work as well as addressing learners from all backgrounds.
Right. It has to be, you have to do all the things. Like it can't just be the SEL factors, you really have to. And as a principal, it's, about going in and seeing what's happening in the classroom, because if I'm not in the classroom, then I can't see that a teacher needs, additional support for a student in this, realm.
Right.
Or I might not see that as a whole, we're in need of this now because a population might have changed a bit. So I have to be in the classroom where the teacher work is being done. I can't stand back and be in the office, which I hate anyway, to be honest with you.
And we know the most effective administrators are the ones who have high visibility and are in there observing that teaching and learning process and providing coaching opportunities as well.
Right. And it goes back to that like relationship piece, and not just with kids, but like if they see me in the classrooms and in the hallways and, at lunch and all those kind of things, great. They've built all those relationships, but I think teachers need that as well.
Right.
Like they have to see you, at their spot where they're executing the work.
And I've experienced where, you're in the classrooms so often that the teachers want you to come back, hey, you missed this lesson I did or activity.
Yeah.
But even just as importantly, young people are saying, hey, you weren't in my class today. I want you to see me do this, that, or the other. So
I've had quite a few kids that are like, where were you today? We did something awesome today. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't be at all places at one time. I wish I could.
Yes.
Wish I could. That's my biggest challenge, is trying to figure out if I had a superpower here, superhero power, it would be to be able to split myself into places.
And be in multiple places at once.
Yes.
I can relate.
Yeah, that would be my power. Yeah.
So what role does community play in supporting our elementary schools?
So, honestly, I think community is vital. In all the schools that I've been in, really connecting our school to the community that surrounds us, I think is necessary. for a lot of different reasons. I think it's necessary. Sometimes they can provide supports to our families and our students that, is above and beyond what we at the school can do. But I also think that it allows children to see what an awesome community we have surrounding us. I love this city dearly. Like it's my I'm a big Hampton proponent. So if you ever, talk to me, I can talk all the things Hampton. But I think it's important to let kids see that, like to let them know that you're not in this city alone, that you have this community surrounding you, who is ready to, just wrap around you and support you, whether that be through somebody coming to reading in their class to, we have right now one of our community members wiping tables at our cafeteria while we pause out between cafeteria monitors. Just letting them know that there are people here that are ready to support them, I think is super important.
It speaks to our mantra of one community, one transformation.
Yeah.
The importance of recognizing that school and community are one and the same as well. And, I share equally in your passion and about the city of Hampton. I think there's no greater city.
And, there's not.
Like
and
born and raised.
I think
here.
it's always been, this great city that just has been able to be there for its citizens. And so I think showing kids that is just so vital for their success.
Yes, ma'am. So how important do you feel is parent involvement in the success of students? In what ways can parents stay engaged in their child's education?
So, parents are a lifeline to the kids. I think that they entrust us with their kids for so many hours a day, but then they go home to them and that's their, I go back to thinking about my own child. Each night, though I drop her off in a Hampton City Schools, each night she's back to me.
Right.
And my attitude and my support of her and what she's doing in Hampton City Schools or in school in general really does make or break kind of what she does. And so that's why I think it's super important for us to build that relationship and to get our connection with families as one of our, first things that we do. Build that trust, because once parents feel like they can trust you and, they know that you're doing the right thing by their child, then they're supporting you 100%. So even if a day goes by that you just, like my own child, she'll come home and be like, oh, it was the worst day ever. And then I, can remind her, look at the people who surround you and are there to support you and, who can pick you up when you're having a bad day. Or, okay, let's think about who we can go to if you're having, needing support in math or you're needing support in this science. Who can we go to and get support? That piece and that attitude, it comes from me as the parent. And so I know if I build that trust with parents, then they too will support us. Like I am in support of Hampton City Schools for my child, but I know they will support us as well. So I think it's super vital as a teacher, educator, principal, all of that, to build that trust, because we want parents involved.
Yes.
Like they are their child's hero. Like they're their child's number one.
And their child's first teacher as well.
Right. And so we want them involved as much as we can. So we do lots of opportunities, at my school for parents to be involved, not just outside of the regular like PTA and things like that, but, coming in and volunteering, connecting with them, what we're doing in the school, letting them know, having teachers connect with parents so that, we can build that trust, so that they know what's going on with their child every single day.
Well said. Well said. And we recognize that school safety is a priority. And can you share how your school, how Burbank ensures a safe environment for students and staff?
Yeah. So, we know that's something that over the course of education has changed. One of the things that we do is we train our teachers very well to, be in safety mode at all times,
right.
Whether it be while you're teaching or before school starts, after school ends, so that we can keep all of our students safe. We have from, the moment we wake up in the morning, students in our school, I say that because we're super early, but all the way till, evening hours because of our after school program. And so we know we have to keep kids safe from that morning time to evening time. And so training teachers and ensuring that they know what to do, when to do it, practicing enough of those, safety drills and things so that it becomes second nature for you. So when, and God forbid something happened, it is second nature to us. But Hampton City Schools has provided us with lots of things that are in place to help us. Weapons detections. We have locked doors with, speaker entrance until secretary is able to confirm who you are. And
Panic button.
yes, panic buttons, throughout the schools. We have ballistics film on all of our windows, which at Burbank is very important because, but I mean, it's just an opportunity. You guys have provided us with such support that we have so many factors in place that our kids are really kind of wrapped around safety-wise.
Absolutely. And we can't say enough about it. We recognize the core business of a school system is teaching and learning, but I think even on top of that is safety and making certain folks feel safe. And I can't say enough about recognizing the importance of that, because if folks don't feel safe, staff and students, then the learning and teaching is adversely impacted by that. So,
and I think we have a good relationship with our school resource officers.
Absolutely.
Our school resource officers are there to support us at all times, but they also do that kind of proactive stuff too. And they do that proactive work with our, building relationships with our students, but also being aware of when they step in our building, noticing things that, might stand out, that they're like, hey, have you thought about doing things this way? And I think that relationship between us at the school and the SROs.
And the police department establishing good working relationships with young people, elementary students, and even the staff members. And our first day of school this year, and we're out at the bus lot at 5:30. I don't know. I know it was early, 5:15, 5:30, but it wasn't just Hampton City School staff. It was Chief Jimmy Weidman and other members of the police department there to cheer on our bus drivers and start the school year off right. And I can't say enough about how thankful I am for the support that they provide and the partnership we have with the police
And knowing
department.
that relationship, I think, speaks volumes to our kids and lets our kids know that it's okay to speak up when they need to speak up about things that aren't safe. And I think they feel comfortable enough because they see all the adults surrounding them and feeling okay to work together.
And not just discussing at school in terms of school issues, they can also share things that could be perhaps going on in the community, so they can actually be proactive and identify
and keeping us safe throughout the entire city. Absolutely.
So, Dr. Brezinski, what are some of the biggest challenges you face as an elementary school principal, and how do you work to overcome them?
Oh, besides that, I can't be in all places at one time. I haven't figured that out yet. That's probably the biggest challenge. I mean, I really think time management kind of is like the biggest challenge, is just kind of being in elementary. I feel like, I have, a large number of kids. There are only 2 of us administrators and 1 counselor. So just sometimes, as you're building those relationships, supporting kids who are having a tough morning, or, a family who might be going through something at that time that needs support, kind of playing all those roles and then making sure you're in the classrooms, making sure you're in the lunchroom to build those relationships, just really kind of trying to be in all places at one time. And I'll be honest with you, like my tool goes back to, I manage like 5 calendars so that they can all blend together. But I just really ultimately just want to support all of the stakeholders in our building. So that means students, that means teachers, that means families. And so really trying to capitalize on those moments. When you see a parent in the office, even if you're bypassing just those few minutes to make that connection, to build those relationships, taking the time when you have a student who's upset and crying on their way in, walking them to class and getting them settled makes long gains. And so I think just managing those little bits of time has been the toughest. And so thank God for Google Calendar.
It is amazing. Well, what would you consider the most rewarding part of your job as an elementary school principal?
Do I have to pick one?
No.
Okay. I think it's the people, honestly, and I say that I'll make it one, even though it's a lot. I mean, it's very cliche to say the kids, but it is the kids. They are the reason why I do this. But I think it's also the families. And I think one of the things I love about being a principal is supporting teachers and making even the worst day a day that you are supported and cared for. And so for students, families, and our teachers, like that is like my why of what I do this is just to make you feel supported and cared for and to give you what you need. And so, I think,
Very nicely stated.
yeah. So the
Have you
people.
had any of your former students come back to teach or work for Hampton City Schools?
So yes, I've had them come back and work, and it's the moment which you feel old. But the one great thing I value most is staying connected to kids, whether I've taught or been principal of, is really just trying my best. Sometimes, physical space or, kids moving doesn't always allow for that. I love Facebook for that reason. Like I always promised myself I wasn't like, social media, but really, truly, it's about staying connected to my former people, like,
Yes.
my former students. And so that is like very motivating to me. And so it is why I stay on there so that I can find my old students, I can find them. But yeah, I have had them come back and work or be like, hey, I'm getting ready to enroll a student. And I'm
Right.
like, oh, you have kids. Wait, you're not old enough to have kids. Yeah.
Those
So
full circle
yeah,
moments for
yeah.
So what advice would you give families who are just starting their elementary school journey?
Um, Honestly, very simple advice. I mean, because you can say all the things like join the PTA and do all that. I'm gonna be honest with you, I do all those things as a parent myself. I can't be PTA officer. I'm gonna be honest with you. My job just doesn't entail
Right.
me, and so I know that there are parents out there that can't too. But really, just connecting with people inside your student school, and that starts from the moment that you register. Just like taking the time to make those connections with people because those are people who are going to be supporting your babies. And then I think like I go back. It's like with age old, like. Just read to them.
Yes.
Just read to them. Like, you don't have to, like, go through 50 million flashcards and all that kind of stuff. Just read to them because
It
connection
helps promote
happens
the
when you
importance of
read.
literacy. And that
Yes, and
connectivity.
literacy
Yes.
happens when you
Yes.
read.
Yes.
And so, my child was even, older and she was like, can you just sit down and like read to me, because so much happens in that moment. And so that would be my biggest advice. Like, if you're trying to prep academically and all that stuff, just sit down and read. And the libraries in Hampton are phenomenal, and you can do so much online now. And so everything's at the ready. And if you don't have a book, stop by Burbank. I'll get you a book. I'll get you a book.
Great advice
Yeah,
about the
but
literacy and
yeah,
also
just
just staying
read.
connected to the
Yeah.
school. And you may not have enough time to be so
Right.
deeply involved,
Right.
but you can stay connected.
Right. I
and-
think sometimes we get intimidated by we have to be, volunteers in the PTA and all that kind of stuff. And but really it's just about being connected. Like know who your child's teachers are, know who are the people that
Right.
your children are with every day, and because it does nothing but benefit your child. And so I think, and it in turn benefits us. So it's kind of a selfish
It does,
motive,
it
but
does.
yeah.
So I know you have been in the field of education for a while. So how do you envision the future of elementary education and what changes do you hope to see in the next few years?
So I think it goes back to that technology and engagement piece. I mean, I just think we're going to have to we're just going to have to continue to shift gears because I think technology, where we're headed, is just going to change so much for kids. Like I said, just from kindergarten to 12th grade changes so much of what's readily available to our children. And so I think just staying on top of what the newest and the leading technology and availability for kids, like even just social media.
Right.
Like social media is so at the ready for our kids, but how do we begin to use all those tools to help support students here? The great thing, like Hampton City Schools has an academy that works on just things like using social media as a tool for benefiting businesses and things like that. So I think really we are in a good place here because we do those things and we constantly alter and change. But I think that's going to be where we have to go with education. And we have to alter and change so that we stay ahead of where kids need to be.
And it goes back to what we said in the beginning, preparing young people for the world they are about to enter into.
And we don't even know what that world looks like yet.
Exactly.
We don't even know what that looks like. But I think just staying on top of those pieces is going to be the biggest thing. And I think we're going to have to do that all the way down through. And I think on top of that, there's like a spin on it because I think, too, we also have to keep kids engaged. And this is why I'm super excited about like signature experiences in Hampton down on the elementary level, because we also have to provide kids that connection back to their community, because all those tools can sometimes lead to you being isolated away from your community. And I think we still need to remind kids that there's a community here surrounding them that provides so much and has so much to offer them. So I think I'm super excited about that.
I can tell. It's very nicely stated. And you mentioned the signature experiences. It speaks to, what we say time and again. We talk about the portrait of a Hampton graduate. Yeah. And in the past, folks just saw that as something that is specifically relating to high school. Yeah. But when we talk about the portrait of a Hampton graduate, we're saying as soon as you enter our schools, whether it's Moulton or preschool in general, we're preparing you to be the portrait of a Hampton graduate. And with the end result being ensuring that your college career and life ready as well.
Yeah, it starts from the minute that you enter into us. And, I think building upon that and getting kids, by the time they get to high school, they, they are ready and willing to utilize all those things that are surrounding them, I think is going to be so priceless for our kids. And so I'm super excited that it's trickled down to us now.
The thematic approach and providing those experiences at the elementary and middle school level to more than adequately prepare them and making informed decisions as they move into the academy
Finding
model.
Self and community and all those pieces is going to be so vital for our kids.
Outlined in that portrait of a Hampton graduate is a positive sense of self and purpose, which I believe is the anchor for everything else. Yes, we recognize you're going to have all of these academic accomplishments, but if you don't have a positive sense of self and purpose, then it is a struggle for you to be able to master things that are outlined in that portrait.
Absolutely.
Dr. Brezinski, any final thoughts you would like to share as we close out today?
I just, this is such a cool job. So, I thank you for the opportunity to sit here and talk about it, because I don't think oftentimes, I used to view my principal, honestly, viewed them as a person who kind of sat in the office and, I don't really, until I got to high school, didn't even really connect with my principal. And this is just such a cool job. And I love the opportunity to get here and speak about my kids and about the families and the community that are surrounding me. And so I'm just excited to continue the work here in Hampton City Schools and do all the new things that we have coming at us this year and still be successful in all the avenues that we have laid out for our students. So
I told you you'd be a natural in this. Your passion is quite evident in this work. I certainly appreciate you being with us for 23 and now going into your 24th year. So we thank you for choosing Hampton City Schools. And as I often say, thank you for choosing to stay as well and make a positive impact in the lives of young people.
It works both ways.
Yes, ma'am. So I do appreciate you being here and in highlighting the importance of those elementary school years. I'm certain our listeners have taken away valuable insights from our discussion, whether they are a Hampton City Schools parent or a parent in another school district wishing to be here in Hampton as well. And to our listeners, remember, education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. As one community, one transformation, we will ensure academic excellence for every child, every day, whatever it takes. We will catch you next week.
Listen to learn more about Hampton City Schools. New episodes of HCS Talks drop on Thursdays. Subscribe and listen to HCS Talks. HCS Talks is a Hampton City Schools production.